Did the Celtics make a mistake by not making the trade? The dominant narrative is that Boston dodged a bullet by not trading Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant. After all, the team won the 2024 title with Brown as a key piece, while Durant is now struggling with the Suns. But is this analysis truly fair, or are we being deceived by the convenience of hindsight? If Durant had been traded to the Celtics, the impact could have been seismic. Imagine a more mature Jayson Tatum alongside one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. That duo could have been even deadlier than what we saw in the 2024 playoffs. Boston might have won back-to-back titles, something that hasn't happened since the 1960s. Were the Celtics too conservative in keeping Brown? Many argue that Durant's age was a risk, and that Brown, being younger, offered a more sustainable future. But championships are won in the present. And when healthy, Durant is still one of the most unstoppable players in the league. If the trade had happened, Boston might have built an instant dynasty, capitalizing on a hungry Durant, seeking another title, and a Tatum at his peak. The longevity argument makes sense, but here's the counterpoint. How many teams miss out on championships because they wait too long for the future? Another crucial factor is chemistry. The 2024 Boston Celtics won because they had a well-defined identity, with players who knew each other and a cohesive system. Would Durant have fit into that structure? He has shown he can thrive in winning systems, like with the Warriors, but he has also had tumultuous stints, like with the Brooklyn Nets. There's always a risk of destabilizing a team when bringing in a superstar. But what if the trade had been made and Boston had fallen short in the playoffs due to a lack of depth? Would we now be criticizing the franchise for giving up a player who could be a pillar for another decade? That's the big question fans should ask themselves: is an immediate title more valuable, or is sustainable competitiveness the better path? Is Jaylen Brown really untouchable? The Boston Celtics' loyalty to Jaylen Brown is admirable, but is it truly justified? There's no doubt he's a high-level player, an all-star, a solid defender, and an explosive scorer. However, when we analyze his trajectory and limitations, an uncomfortable question arises. Is he really untouchable? Or did the Celtics make a mistake by refusing trades for historically great players like Kevin Durant? Brown has undeniable qualities, but he also has weaknesses that can limit his impact in crucial moments. He is not an elite playmaker, and his decision-making under pressure has cost the team at times. In the playoffs, we've seen brilliant performances, but also quiet outings in key games. Can he truly be the ideal co-star for Jayson Tatum on a team chasing multiple championships? A trade for Durant would have given the Boston Celtics one of the greatest scorers of all time, a player with championship experience and a proven track record as a finals performer. Even with Durant's advanced age, the reality is that players of his caliber transform franchises. Imagine Tatum alongside a healthy Durant. This duo could have been one of the most unstoppable in the past decade, delivering an immediate title and possibly starting a dynasty. This leads to a fundamental dilemma. Are the Celtics too focused on the future at the expense of the present? Keeping Brown makes sense if we believe he can continue evolving and be a key piece in future championships. But what if he never takes that next leap? What if his offensive creativity and struggles under pressure become a chronic issue? In that case, the Celtics might have wasted a chance to acquire a generational talent. Another factor to consider is fit. Brown thrives in the current Boston Celtics system, which emphasizes team-oriented play and a strong defensive structure. But would he shine in any other system? Or is he simply benefiting from the structure around him? If the latter is true, his supposed untouchable status might be more illusion than reality. On the other hand, there's an emotional and identity-based aspect. Brown has shown loyalty to Boston, and the franchise values players who build their legacy in the green and white. Trading him could send the message that no one is truly safe, which could impact the locker room dynamic. But does that loyalty outweigh the chance to construct an even more dominant team? Has Boston shown that it doesn't fully trust Brown? The Boston Celtics may publicly state that they believe in Jaylen Brown as a cornerstone of the franchise, but the front office's actions over the years tell a different story. If Brown were truly untouchable, if he were the perfect Robin to Jayson Tatum's Batman, then why has his name been involved in so many trade rumors? The mere fact that the Celtics considered sending him to the Brooklyn Nets for Kevin Durant is a clear indication that the organization does not see him as indispensable. And even after that, the trade speculation didn't stop. This raises an uncomfortable question. Does Brown truly feel valued in Boston? His record-breaking contract extension might suggest so, but money is not always synonymous with full confidence. The franchise had no choice but to pay him the maximum amount possible. Losing a player of his caliber for nothing would have been a disaster. But was this extension a genuine bet on Brown as a pillar of the team, or just a strategic move to retain a valuable asset? Another point to consider is how the Celtics handle their internal hierarchy. Despite Brown being essential to the 2024 championship run, Tatum has always been seen as the face of the franchise, the player around whom everything is built. That's understandable since Tatum is a rare talent with MVP potential. But what does that mean for Brown? Does he truly have room to grow within the Celtics? Or will he always be viewed as the guy who plays next to Tatum? If that perception persists, this relationship could eventually become strained. Brown may start to wonder if he is being undervalued, if he should seek a team where he could be the main star rather than just a high-level sidekick. We've seen this happen before in the NBA. Talented players leaving because they feel they will never get the recognition they deserve. And if that day comes, Boston could find itself in a tough position. Hold on to him at all costs or let him pursue a new challenge. Was Derek White the real reason Brooklyn refused the trade? When the Celtics-Nets trade for Kevin Durant fell through, most analyses focused on the fact that Brooklyn rejected the offer. But was Jaylen Brown truly the decisive factor? Or did Derek White play a bigger role in this equation than most people realize? At the time, White was seen as a good player, but far from essential. His role in the Celtics rotation was solid, but no one considered him indispensable. If the Nets had accepted the deal, Boston would have sent not only Brown, but also White, a move that could have completely changed the franchise's trajectory. Today, it's impossible to ignore Derek White's importance to the Celtics. He has become one of the team's best defenders and an extremely reliable secondary playmaker. His growth as a player has been remarkable, and his impact on the team goes far beyond the stat sheet. Boston's perimeter defense simply wouldn't be the same without him, and his ability to make smart decisions on offense has given the team a level of stability it previously lacked. So, did Brooklyn see this before everyone else? Did the Nets reject the offer not just because of Brown, but also because they underestimated White? If the trade had gone through, the Celtics wouldn't have just lost an all-star in Brown. They would have also given up a defender who is now indispensable. The idea that Brown was the only truly valuable piece in the package might have been a miscalculation that, ironically, benefited Boston. Looking back, one could argue that Derek White was the most valuable player Boston managed to keep. If Brooklyn had accepted the trade, could the Celtics have won the championship, even with Durant? Without White, would the defense have been as dominant in the playoffs? Without him, would Boston have been able to stop Luka Doncic in the finals? This raises a broader discussion about how players like White, often underrated, end up being fundamental to a team's success. Superstars get the spotlight, but it's the versatile players, the ones who do the dirty work, who often make the difference between a good team and a champion. And White, without a doubt, fits into that category. What if the trade had happened and Boston had failed? Trading Jaylen Brown and Derek White for Kevin Durant seemed like a masterstroke in theory. After all, we're talking about one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, a champion, a player capable of turning a team into an offensive powerhouse. But what if things had gone wrong? Imagine if Boston had closed the deal and Durant, shortly after, suffered another major injury. It wouldn't have been much of a surprise. Durant has a history of physical issues, especially after rupturing his Achilles tendon in 2019. Since then, he has missed long stretches across multiple seasons. If that had happened in Boston, the narrative would have shifted completely. The Celtics would have sacrificed a young, healthy all-star for an aging superstar who couldn't stay on the court. And more than that, they would have also lost Derek White, a vital defender and one of the team's most underrated players. In this scenario, Jayson Tatum would have been overwhelmed, forced to carry the team almost entirely on his own. The roster would have lost its depth, and the defense, which was one of the biggest strengths of the 2024 championship run, would have taken an irreparable hit. A lack of defensive consistency and an over-reliance on Tatum could have set the Celtics back instead of pushing them forward. And what if Durant had stayed healthy, but the fit just wasn't right? Talent alone doesn't make a championship team. Let's not forget the Brooklyn Nets, who went all in on a trio of Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. On paper, they were unstoppable. In reality, it was a disaster. Chemistry issues, injuries, and a lack of cohesion turned one of the most talented teams in NBA history into one big what-if. Could the Celtics have fallen into the same trap? Another crucial factor is the winning culture Boston has built. The 2024 championship Celtics were a team that knew itself, one with an identity, and players fully committed to the project. By bringing in Durant, the Celtics might have sacrificed that stability. He has already shown that he can be a destabilizing force when he's unhappy. Just look at Brooklyn, where he requested a trade more than once. Would he have had the patience to handle the pressure of Boston, one of the NBA's most demanding cities?